Welcome to the Silent Personality Stone. We're going to step into a part of English history that often gets skipped, even though it quietly decided the shape of the country for centuries to come. No giant conquest fleets on the horizon. No famous one battle changed everything moment that gets repeated in every classroom. Instead, we're following a king who ruled in the shadows between bigger names. A man whose victories were measured not in glory speeches, but in stubborn survival, careful authority, and a final, permanent turning of the north toward one kingdom. His name is King Eadred, and if you've barely heard of him, that's exactly why he belongs here. Because when history gets loud, it usually celebrates the ones who shout, but the ones who hold things together, the ones who keep the walls standing while storms keep coming, those people often vanish into footnotes. Eadred is one of those rulers. Yet what happened in his reign changed England permanently. Picture England in the mid-10th century. It's not the neat, fully unified country we imagine when we hear the word England. It's a kingdom still being stitched together from older lands, older loyalties, and older wounds. The south has long been dominated by the royal house of Wessex, the line that runs through Alfred the Great. But the north, especially Northumbria and the Viking kingdom centered on York, is a different world. It's a region where kings can be invited in and thrown out with frightening speed, where alliances shift like wind on open moorland, where a man can swear loyalty one season and raise a rival banner the next. Eadred is born into this reality around the early 920s, the younger son of Edward the Elder and his wife Egifu. That family detail matters, because it places him directly inside the engine room of the English monarchy. Alfred the Great is his grandfather. Thelstan, the first ruler often described as king of the English in a stronger, wider sense, is his half-brother. Edmund, who comes after Thelstan, is his full brother. This is a dynasty used to war, diplomacy, church politics, and constant pressure from the Scandinavian world. But as a younger son, Eadred is not originally the main character. In royal families, younger sons can become bishops, advisors, military leaders, or simply important nobles. They can be useful, they can be dangerous, and sometimes they become kings only because history clears a path with sudden, brutal force. In Eadred's case, that force comes at a shocking, personal moment. In 946, his brother King Edmund is killed in a violent incident while trying to protect someone close to him, an act that later writers remembered as both courageous and tragic. Edmund's sons, Ewig and Edgar, are still children. The realm cannot wait for a boy to grow up while the north watches for weakness. So the crown passes to Eadred. Now imagine the weight of that moment. Eadred isn't stepping into a peaceful inheritance. He's stepping into a kingdom where unity is real, but fragile. The south may accept him, but the north will test him. Because Northumbria has a habit, at this point in history, of treating kingship like a contract it can renegotiate whenever it wants. Eadred becomes king in 946. And he is crowned later that year, in August, at Kingston upon Thames. Kingston is an old coronation site, a place that carries tradition like a cloak. The ceremony is led by Oda, the Archbishop of Canterbury, a man who matters deeply in this story. Oda represents a church leadership that is not just spiritual, but political. A church that helps define legitimacy. When Oda places the crown on Eadred's head, it isn't only a religious act. It's the kingdom's claim that Eadred is the rightful center, the anchor point, the one to whom loyalties should ultimately return, and almost immediately, Eadred faces the one problem that defines his reign, Northumbria and York. To understand why this is so explosive, you have to understand what York represents. York is not simply a city. It is a symbol of Scandinavian power in Britain, a place where Norse and Danish leaders have ruled, minted coins, gathered armies, and negotiated with Irish sea kingdoms. It's connected to Dublin, to the Isles, to Norway, to the broader Viking world. It's also connected to the English kingdom because the English kings keep trying to hold it, and because the local elites keep making deals to protect their own position. In simple terms, Northumbria is the borderland where England's future gets argued over again and again. At the start of Eadred's reign, the Northumbrians acknowledge him. That sounds like success. But in this era, acknowledgement can be temporary, almost ceremonial. What matters is what happens next when the political weather changes. And the weather changes fast. The elites of York decide to accept the Scandinavian ruler again. And the name that echoes through the sources is Eric Bloodaxe. Even the nickname feels like a warning. Whether every story told about him is true or exaggerated, the point is clear. He represents the kind of warlike Scandinavian kingship that can rally support in the north and threaten the authority of the southern king. Now Eadred has a choice. If he does nothing, he looks weak. If he accepts a Scandinavian king in York, he risks turning the north into a permanent separate kingdom again. And if the north breaks away, it encourages others to test him too. Weakness spreads, so Eadred responds the way a 10th century king often responds when diplomacy fails. He brings an army into Northumbria. This is one of the most dramatic episodes of his reign, and it's remembered with fire. In 948, Eadred's forces ravaged Northumbria. During that campaign, a major religious site at Ripon is burned, a minster associated with the legacy of Saint Wilfrid. This is not just random destruction. In medieval politics, religious centers are tied to power, wealth, and legitimacy. Burning a minster sends a message that is both political and psychological. It says, I can reach the heart of your region. I can punish the land itself, but the north answers back. As Eadred's army returns south, it is attacked, and the sources describe a great slaughter near Castleford. This is the moment that turns the story from a simple punitive raid into something far more tense. Because now Eadred has been hurt. He's been challenged directly. He has lost men. And the question becomes, will he retaliate so brutally that Northumbria is broken? Or will the northern elites panic and try to repair the relationship before everything goes too far? The way the story is remembered, the northern councillors choose survival. They abandon Eric and they pay compensation to Eadred. It's a grim kind of negotiation. Blood has been shed, so silver must flow. And loyalty must be sworn again. But here's the thing about Northumbria in this period. It doesn't settle. It swings. Not long after, the north accepts another Scandinavian ruler, Olaf Citrixson, also known in some traditions as Amlade Queren. The names can be confusing, and that confusion is part of the reality of the time. These kings move between Dublin, York, and other centers. Their power rises and falls across the Irish Sea world. A ruler can be king in one place, lose it, become king somewhere else, and return again. For Eadred, this means the problem never truly goes away. The north is like a door that keeps blowing open in the wind. Every time he pushes it shut, someone lifts the latch again. So how does a king fight a problem like that? Not only with armies, with control, with alliances, with the church, with the slow, hard work of making the idea of one kingdom feel inevitable. Eadred's court includes extremely powerful figures. His mother, Eadgifu, is politically active, a royal woman with resources and influence. Great nobles such as Thelstan, known as half-king in some traditions because of his enormous power, help hold the realm together. And then there is Dunstan, a churchman who becomes one of the most famous religious and political figures of the age. Dunstan is associated with Glastonbury, a great religious center, and he becomes close to Eadred. In later years, when Eadred's health declines, Dunstan's role grows even more important because the machinery of government still has to run. Charters must be issued, decisions must be recorded, land grants must be managed, and royal authority must keep showing itself in documents as well as in soldiers. This is an important detail because it shows how kingship actually works beyond the battlefield. A king isn't only a man with a crown. A king is an institution that has to keep producing authority. Written documents, witness lists, grants, and councils are part of that production. If the king can't travel easily or attend every meeting, trusted advisors become the hands that keep the crown visible. Eadred also supports early movements that later grow into the English Benedictine Reform, a major transformation in English religious life. It fully blossoms under later rulers, especially Edgar. But in Eadred's reign, you can see the roots taking hold. Another key figure here is Ethelwold, who becomes abbot of Abingdon with royal support and helps transform it into a leading religious house. What's fascinating is that Eadred's religious policy appears practical as well as supportive. He backs reformers, but he also works with the realities of his church, where not every cleric lives like a strict monk. In other words, he is not only chasing an ideal, he's governing a living institution with competing visions inside it.